Hey man,
Hey, how's it going?
good. How's your day going over there?
It's going well. It's going well. It's a very busy day. I'm simultaneously working on the product and the marketing site, and then also some business stuff. So I'm just kind of like, I'm a little bit wired in sort of in that good way, like making a lot of progress today and also just kind of bouncing around between a bunch of stuff. And there's like a nice sort of hum. I feel like there's this hum in the company right now because we're like wrapping things up. I mean, there's a lot to do, but like there's just like seriousness going on right now, which is kind of fun,
Yeah.
but also like a lot of fun too. So it's kind of a good time. I'm gonna have a late night though tonight. I think tonight's a night I'm gonna pull kind of a late one and maybe work till 2 or 3 and just kind of bang out a bunch of great stuff tonight, starting at like 9, and see if I can go. Just I don't want to go. I'm not going all night, but I'll have like a later night than usual by a few hours, and then sleep in a tiny bit tomorrow morning, and then kind of get my schedule back. But
Yeah.
I'm just feeling tonight's the night for that.
What are you jamming on? Like in particular, is there something you?
Yeah, I'm working on. I'm putting together. Well, a couple things. So I'm working on the marketing site. So like writing all the pages and putting some design together for them, taking screenshots, a bunch of that stuff. And I'm trying to keep the site relatively small. I'm trying to keep it to like 6 or 7 pages at most. And I'd actually like to get it down to 3 or 4. And I think we probably could. But at launch, I want to have some more resource, like some pages that we're not going to need in a year. Things like what changed from Basecamp 2 to Basecamp 3. Like we're not going to need that in a year, but there's a couple things you need during a transition. Like we're going to have a page about the transition. So just some extra stuff, but like the core site's going to be just 3 or 4 pages basically, and like a few extra stragglers that we're going to want. And then probably a couple other pages around like key core concepts that we want to promote heavily, like the work can wait idea, the idea of adoptional, which is this idea that in Basecamp, like people can just sort of participate without having to buy into it, not having to install an app or like even log in anywhere, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And then the other one I really want to start talking a lot about is discussions in context. I think that this is I think there's a trend going on right now where discussions are sort of streaming by a lot, like in chat rooms, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. We have that in the new Basecamp too, and we sort of had that in Campfire years ago, and it's obviously a hot way to talk right now. But I think what happens is that a lot of discussions end up happening out of context, and then you can't corral them and find them later. It's very hard to keep things on topic, is what I've sort of discovered when you're chatting all the time.
Yeah.
So in Basecamp, we let you discuss anything in context attached to the item itself. So if we're talking about a show, on the event itself, we can discuss things. If we have to-dos, you can talk about the to-do itself on the to-do. So when you go to the to-do, the whole discussion is attached to the to-do, where it should be, versus having it on this like endless conveyor belt mixed in and mashed up with all these other things. I think this is a super important point, and I don't think we've ever made a good point about it. But I find it to be extremely important when you're building something with a group of people, and other people need to reference things, know where to find things, know where to get things. I don't think a single scrollable forever transcript is anywhere close to being useful in that context. And so I want to talk about that some more, and so I'm writing up something about that because I think it's a really important topic, and I think we can champion it some more. And it's sort of been one of the secrets to our company, and I don't feel like we've ever told it. And Basecamp's all about that, and so I just feel like it's an important thing to talk about. So I want to kind of like write a story about it, illustrate it, make some good points, and then have like a page to point to. So that's I've been working on that. I got to do some stuff in the app for on the tour and stripping back. So one of the other things, we still haven't decided what we're going to call. You can see I've got a lot of things to do. We haven't decided what to call. Like, I think we're going to call these things base camps. Gotten some really good feedback on that from people on Twitter too, and we've had some good internal discussions about it. But regardless of what we end up calling these things, I'm going to strip back language. I'm going to go through the app and strip back language around project. Because even if we still call them projects, we don't need to be so heavy-handed about the language of project. So, for example, there might be a screen that says, when you're setting up the people on something, you might say like, who from your company is involved with this project? And you might just be able to say like, who are you working with? Like who you're working with this on, or who from your company are you working on this with? You know, like it's like it or with like this. You don't need to always keep saying project. So I'm kind of pulling that back a little bit just to kind of go lighter on it, even if we decide to go with it. And if we don't decide to go with it, we can make a change even last minute and call these things whatever we want and not have certain words littered around which are throwing up boundaries. So anyway, doing a little bit of that. That's why, but I'm kind of like, I'm kind of rolling with it. So I feel good about working a little bit later tonight.
Cool.
Yeah. My wife has been awesome about supporting me through this. So like, I owe her. But,
Awesome.
So yeah, so a couple things we were talking a little bit earlier about before we went on the air about fonts and typefaces and stuff like that, and you were curious about how we picked the one.
Yeah, I mean, this is so we keep alluding to it, but like we're working on a big aesthetic redesign of high rise, and it's hard. It's really challenging, and we'll talk more about it this week, next week, I'm sure, and weeks to come while we're still working on it. Mostly I'm scared to make changes. I mean, that's a big one, but like I get also like really, it's hard. It's hard to make some of the choices on you know, like we're dealing with names, but also just aesthetic decisions about even font choices. Like, I mean, so we're tempted to, we're not even tempted, but like, you know, there's already a new font choice that's been made.
Roll with it. Done. I don't even want to hear about it anymore. Just go. Do it. Just kidding.
Well, maybe, and maybe that's true.
Right,
maybe that really is. And if we hear feedback about it, we'll make some changes. But like already, I'm like, it's a like we're planning on moving to Source Sans Pro from Adobe. It's gotten a little more popular, It's gotten pretty popular as a sans serif font today. But like we've got a lot of, again, these are just like these picky choices. Like, okay, like it's a more narrow font. And so you kind of have to bump up the font size. But there's a lot of different font sizes in high rise. And there's some smaller font sizes now that they're a little tighter. Are people going to freak out because the numbers of an address are a little closer together than they were before? So I don't know, there's a lot of decision making at the moment I'm doing with this. I'm curious if I'm like doing too much. I'm just even curious, like what have you gone through in terms of picking fonts for, you know, Basecamp 2, Basecamp 3? How'd you arrive at these decisions?
Yeah, so first of all, the general sense I'm getting is like that you guys feel a little bit paralyzed by making some fundamental calls like that. And I think you guys are better off just moving quickly on things and like just rolling with it. I mean, obviously you want to make sure it looks right. But you know, typeface, like Apple changed the typeface to Helvetica, and then they changed it to San Francisco, and like they have a bazillion customers. And like some people complained, like there was like designers who like Helvetica sucks on the phone. Like there's all these complaints, right? And the world went on, and then they changed it again, and the world will go on again. Like people aren't leaving because it's like, I don't like Helvetica. I don't like, you know, I prefer Google's font, so I'm moving. Like that's not the reason people are going to leave a product. But you know, obviously it's a change in the furniture in a little tiny bit. But I'd say pick something that you feel is like refreshing and nice. And just do it. And look, you know, one of the other things I would suggest is that this is also a good moment. Like we have these, like internally we call these things smells, basically, right? It's like if you're like, but we have a lot of font sizes in high rise. Like that smells bad. Like there's something like that's a good moment to go, do we need so many font sizes? I've been kind of pushing on this internally. There's sometimes a lot of fuss around like black text and then something light gray next to it and then something smaller next to it. It's like, you don't need all these different points of difference. And if you have to make some stuff really, really, really small, so like it doesn't distract, like maybe you don't need it at all. So it's kind of a good moment to just think about like, if we have, you know, 12 different font sizes, like, do I need 12 different font sizes? Like think about how much a book can communicate in like 2 font sizes. You know, I just don't think it's that necessary to have so many different styles. So we're trying to pull back internally even on that. Because it's easy to kind of, we need this information, so let's throw it in there. Oh, it's not so important, so let's turn it gray. Oh, let's make it smaller too. And then let's make it another color, because gray's, it's like, maybe it shouldn't be there, or maybe it's too small. So I think that's these are good moments, because like when you start thinking about the font sizes and you're like, you only start thinking about font sizes when you start thinking about a new font. So this is like another moment to simplify, perhaps.
Yes.
The way we did it with Basecamp 3 is we're using a font that we used in Know Your Company. We built this product called Know Your Company a few years ago. And it's, when we were looking for it, I wanted to use something that was like the sort of direction was friendly and cozy, but not overly playful. Like I wanted something that just felt nice, that was a little bit rounded, that just had a good, fun feel to it. Because Know Your Company is in some ways, it's a serious product, but it's also a fun product. Like on Fridays, it asks people something social, like, what movies have you seen recently? Or have you been to any good restaurants lately? Or what's the earliest memory you had? Or like, did you go to overnight camp when you're growing up? Or things like that. So it has like a nice social sense to it. And then it also has like a seriousness, like, are we offering the right benefits internally? Are there things we're not doing that we should be doing? Have we dropped the ball on something? But I just wanted to feel comfortable and cozy, because if people are going to give harsh feedback, I kind of wanted it just to feel like a comfortable place to do that. And maybe I'm putting too much onto font. The font's not really, like, font's not really that, but it does suggest something, right? So anyway, the point is we didn't spend 8 months on that. Like that was just the idea. And then I think it was Jonas or Mig, I'm not sure who did it internally at the time, just went out and looked around, and like in a day or two, we just decided, oh, this one's nice. So we picked a font called Fact. And it's like a great, nice, rounded font. Looks good at big sizes. Looks good at small sizes. Reads well as body copy. Also reads well as headline. Just nice and comfortable. And we decided to, and then we made Basecamp 3. So Basecamp 2 uses, I think, was it Proxima Nova or?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think that's what it used. And so we started that in Basecamp 3. And then at some point we're like, you know what? We're kind of making the product a bit cozy in some ways, a little warm, and just feels good, has a good feel to it, good, comfortable place to be. And so we decided to use that same typeface in Basecamp 3, and it just sort of kind of continued on the theme of just being like more approachable, not this stoic thing, not this like ultra clean, modern Helvetica style thing. Helvetica just has no personality. I wanted a font with a little bit of personality, but not like so in your face that you're irritated by it.
Yeah.
And so we went with it. We spent a day. We had to tweak because like we just popped it in some font, like it's narrower or wider in some spots, and it's lighter weight, smaller weight is a little too light. And we had to actually have some adjustments. We made some adjustments because one of the weights we were using was a little bit too thin, so we went with something thicker. We played around with it, but it only took like a couple days at the end of the day just to kind of make it all right. And so we did that, and we're rolling with it. Feels good, and then we're using it on the marketing side as well.
Yeah. This is also, there's so many changes we're making. So another challenge is there's so many changes we're making. Like I'm also tempted to try and roll out incremental changes so that it's not quite as shocking at one time. Some stuff is naturally going to have to be, right? Like, the header and a background color and whatever. That's gonna be whatever. That's kind of some in your face stuff that's gonna change. So I'm tempted to, like, can a font change be done now so that we can at least, I don't know, not freak everybody out. The furniture just moves a little bit, like you're saying, like now, not everything changes in the room, but just one little tweak, and then move on from there. I don't know.
So my inclination is roll out. Trying to think, like, I just kind of roll a bunch of stuff out together as a package. And in some ways it hides the individual changes, which sort of allows you to sneak in some stuff. And this sounds terribly, I don't mean it like you're trying to put one by people, but it's like, at the end of the day, you have to consider what will be considered. And if you play up the some new bulk email thing, or you played up these big things, and like you can maybe just change the typeface. You don't have to make a big deal about it. Like a typeface change, it doesn't have to be like a feature announcement. It just rolls out at the same time. It can be a footnote if you just want to say like, hey, we we switched up the typeface to make it a little bit easier to read, you know, whatever the reason was, or just like to make it feel better, whatever the reason, just be honest. But it doesn't need to be like this big deal, I think. And people, of course, notice it, and I promise you they will stop noticing it in 2 weeks. They won't care. If they do care now, they won't care later, and because who care? Normal people aren't thinking about typefaces.
Right.
So that's my my advice. You'll get something will feel different, right? It's like walking into a room and everything's the same, but the chairs are different. You're like, I don't know what's different. The chairs are actually the same, but the upholstery changed a shade of blue or something. You're like, I'm not sure what changed here, but something's a little bit different. And so people will notice that, but then you just get used to it really quickly.
Yeah.
That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, yeah. So that's sort of the typeface thing. I think, what do you guys, what do you have now again? What is it?
It might be Lucida Grand.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right.
I don't have that. Yeah, I don't. It might be Lucida Grand, which is I don't mind it. It just looks maybe a little dated. I don't know if that's so yeah. So we're tempted to go to Adobe's Open Sans Pro.
Yep. I like that one, actually. Is that what they use for Android or something?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know anymore. And it looks good. It worries me a little bit at like the smaller font sizes, which is, you know, based on our just previous discussion, like
Pump them
it's
up.
a little skinny.
Pump them up maybe then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's what we're doing, but then it's just like, then the
typefaces are pretty small in high rise. I know there's a lot of spots where there's just like a lot of small type.
Yeah.
We kind of went away from that in Basecamp 3 and just like made it a little bit bigger, and I think it's just more comfortable in some ways. So
yeah. What do you think? You've talked about this before about like, we're also like, there's so much text in high rise, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's just emails and notes and streams of what people talking and communication. Like that's what the tool does. And so like, and I feel like, so there's also like a lot of places where instead of making everything blue, there's an underline to kind of, you know, denote your, to give some people an indication that this is clickable without calling a lot of attention to it by saying making it blue.
Right.
But it's one of those choices too that it's got me like, so we actually did away with, let's remove, but the underlines provide this visual noise as well as, you know, mixed up in this text. And so it's just like we were tempted to like remove some of the lines, some of the underlines, and hope people's patterns just change enough that they know to click on this. But it worries me. Like now we're just kind of hoping, especially new users who've never used this before. Old users, you know, they get it. It's new people to it. I'm worried that like, do you really know that you can click on this person's name right here just because it's black and bold?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard to know, right? I feel like for whatever reason, I feel like in this is just a total hunch, right? And in this day and age where you're not like on phones, especially, you're just like you just tap on things that look just, you don't even have to, it's like they don't have to look tappable. You just do it because you are like, there's a name. So if maybe I'll tap that and something will happen, or tap this picture and something will happen. Like I think people are getting a little bit more used to just clicking or tapping where they might expect to do that. Ideally, I'd like to have just like blue links everywhere. It's super obvious.
Right.
But I do think that like we use them selectively in Basecamp 3. Like for example, we link up in blue or decorated blue links to-do list names, because titles of lists, because you have like lists stacked, and so the blue not only helps show you that you can click on the list, but it also serves as an anchoring element, because it's a different color, that this is like a different thing. So like we kind of use it to that advantage. In other places we don't use it that way. Like the global navigation or whatever, like doesn't have blue links, but it's like they're at the top of the screen. And what else are they for? You know, like of course you'll go up there and click on something because like they have badges on them, and like you just figure it out. So
right.
I think you got to kind of use your judgment on a case by case basis there. That's generally my take. I think if text is like really small, then it's really like you're actually asking people not to click on it just because it's small anyway. But like, so if you need to make it really obvious, then maybe that's when a link style is helpful. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. We tend to look at it in case by case basis. I mean, technically, it'd be better if everything was clickable, was linked technically, but without considering what it looks like. That's the problem. When you consider what it looks like, it's too much. Some things we also did was in Basecamp 3, there's big blocks. So like you'd like click on it, like a document looks like a document, a to-do list looks like a to-do list, and you can just click anywhere on the shape of the thing. It's like everything's sort of an icon into itself. So you can click on the thing and it just opens it versus having to click on the title of it or click on like something else. So it's not indicated anywhere, but it's kind of like, how else would you open it?
Right.
You just click on it maybe, and then, oh, that's how you do it. And you kind of learn and you're good.
Right. Yeah, we've made, like there's, in our activity streams, very similarly, like we've got these blocks, like here's an email or here's a note, but there's a lot of stuff still to even click on in one of those. Like it's like the person who wrote the note, the case that it belongs to, the company that the person is in. Those are all other things that are clickable in this container. Maybe this is a smell, like maybe none of those things should be clickable in this container. It should just be the note that you could click on. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be, maybe you click the note and then like on the note page or screen or whatever, then you can like reveal all the other information.
Right.
Do you need to know? Maybe you do. I don't know. But like, do you need to know it all at the same time? That sort of thing.
Right.
Hard to say.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, lots of challenging decisions there. Even though they seem small, they like weigh on me all together to make these things.
Let me ask you this. A second, sorry. Did you not stress, that's the wrong word. Did you carefully consider decisions like this as much in draft as you are in high rise, or is it the customer base of high rise is large and it's a multi-million-dollar business, so you're like nervous? Because my gut is like, just follow your gut, man. You know what the hell you're doing. And like, don't think about the audience size, right? Think about like, what do I think is the thing to do anyway, and roll with that. Because I feel like probably with draft, you kind of move quicker and you just like, I'm just making it anyway. No one's really, I mean, people do pay you for it, but it's not like a huge business. I don't know, maybe, I don't know the details.
No, yeah.
And you're like, I have more freedom because it doesn't matter as much. But I think that's how you have to roll anyway, no matter what you're doing. So I wouldn't worry too much about upsetting people over small things that you wouldn't normally think would be upsetting in something like draft.
So yeah, I did still sweat those details in draft. Like, but it depends on when the moment was. And we've talked about this. Like, I feel like I do pretty good learning to switch gears to the right mode. Like if it's like bulk email, it's like, you know what, this is a power that I just want to get out there. I'm not going to sweat the details of what's clickable and what is appropriate. But something as refined already as like our recordings, or the activity streams, like that's something that like is already like a feature that's people are used to. Like now I'm worried about the polish and making it like super obvious and make a lot of sense. And yes, in draft, I definitely sweat the details of picking the right shade of blue for a button. Like I spent days going over books and going to the museum to take photos of blues that I liked. Like, yeah, some of these decisions, I don't know why. Like, I just, I kind of enjoy making them, but then like, yeah, I do get wrapped up into the details of like making the right choice about it.
Yeah. I mean,
I did it with draft too.
Look, you've made great things, so just follow your patterns.
Yeah.
I think what I was trying to pick up on was like, if your patterns are changing because the audience is bigger, then like I would say go back to your gut patterns. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's easy to get caught up. This is something I've always really admired about Facebook and Zuckerberg. I I assume it's from Zuckerberg, which is like, never be afraid just to make big changes. I mean, they would roll out, I don't know, I don't use Facebook anymore, but I remember when I did, I'm assuming they're still the same way, but I don't know. When I did, like, there was controversy once a year about major tweaks they made. Like, I remember when they introduced the timeline thing and changed the news. Like, they made sweeping changes. They had 100 million users at the time, and now they have like 1 billion, right? And they said, like, look, we're making moves. We are here to make this product better. There might be a few bumps in the road, but we're not going to be afraid to make moves that we think are better in the long term. Because in the short term, gut reactions, knee jerks all the time, right? What's so interesting is something I find really interesting, and over the long, when you have a long-term view of stuff like that, is that people knee jerk against something new, then they get used to it, and then you do something else new, and they defend what they originally knee jerked against. So like, you've got version A, you go to version B, people freak out about version B. Then they get used to version B. But remember, they freaked out about it at first. They said version A was better. Don't change my stuff. So now they're using version B for a while. Then you come out with version C, and then they say, what are you doing with version C? I liked version B. But if you remember, like 2 years earlier, they hated version B.
Yeah.
They liked version A. So like, it's just, we all do it. Like, when I talk about people, I'm included in that big pool, right? We are all part of the same pool. We're just human beings who have reactions like that. But it's so fascinating to me. I love looking at things looking back on that, because I remember, like, there's some changes we're making changes we made in BC in the current version of Basecamp that were interesting, because initially people fought against some of the things we made. Then we made some moves, then we changed them back, and then people were upset that we changed them back. The same people who were upset we changed them back were the people who want us to change them back in the first place, but time had passed and they got used to it and they understood it. So, you know, time plays a huge role in feedback. And I think when you hear knee-jerk reactions, and again, we're all capable of these, they don't factor in probably the most important factor, which is like just taking the time to get used to something. And then it becomes habit. You don't form habits instantly. They take time. So when you break them, it's difficult, but then you form new ones, and then you defend the new ones against newer ones, even though originally you pushed back against the new ones. So yeah, it's a cycle. Anyway, I'm ranting on that, but
no, it's good. We only have a couple minutes left. Is there anything you want to talk about in a couple minutes?
No, I think maybe we're good, actually. Maybe we're good for today. It was kind of a good end.
Cool.
Cool.
We will talk about all of this again.
Yeah, so we certainly will. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right, dude. Everybody, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, our podcast. Tell your friends. We love all the feedback we're getting. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy it.
Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Have a good night. Talk to you tomorrow.
Later.